Hey, good morning, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
How are you?
Fantastic.
Huh?
I said fantastic.
Oh, okay. Uh-oh. Oops. Wait a minute. Oh, why is that on there? Okay.
All
How
right.
to share the screen. Okay, here we go.
Now, welcome to the Thrive Live webinar this morning, guys. I'm going to get everybody muted real quick. Technical difficulty. All right. All right, everybody is muted. Latanya, that's going to include you for right now, so you'll have to unmute yourself for whenever we get started. But I just want to welcome everybody to Thrive Live this morning, March 10th, 2018. I'm very excited and honored to have our special guest, Latanya Howard. She is the author of Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz, which just recently released. What's it been, 2 weeks now, I believe? Or maybe 3 weeks?
It's actually been a little bit over a month now.
A little bit over a month. Time flies. But this book, I was so excited to share with you guys because as I read it, it got my wheels turning like crazy. There's so much great opportunity to bring value to our customers and really think outside the box as we grow and expand our business. So I really appreciate that you guys are here with us. Let's welcome Latanya. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much, Bill. I'm very excited to be a part of this discussion today. And thank you, everyone who's joining us virtually. I'm looking forward to a hearty discussion, not only sharing information about the service office space industry, but also learning from you. So why don't we just go ahead and get started? So let me start off with just telling you a little bit about myself. I think I'm going to have to do this differently here. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. If you can't, just let me or Bill know via the chat box and we'll try to get that resolved. But just to tell you a little bit about me, I too am a notary public. I have been commissioned since 2012 in the state of Maryland. I only do GNW. That is actually a term that I learned from this group. I didn't realize that we were that fancy, but I only do general notary work, just normal affidavits, jurats, etc. I have toyed with the idea of advancing that into the signing agent realm, and this group has actually inspired me to rethink that. So I might be among the elite in this group sooner rather than later in that regard.
Awesome.
I'm also, what'd you say, Bill?
I said awesome.
Oh, okay, great. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, also in Maryland. I've been licensed to do real estate for a little bit over a year now. I'm licensed to do both residential and commercial, but my focus is on commercial real estate. Now, the first two roles that I just mentioned actually relate to the third one that you see on the screen, my being a service office space provider. And we'll talk a little bit more about what service office space is, but this is a business that I've operated for a little bit over 6 years. And I became a notary public actually as an ancillary service to that primary business. And I became a licensed real estate agent really as an outgrowth of the business. What I didn't know when I first started the service office space business is that it actually is a facet of commercial real estate. So I decided to get licensed as a way to add more value to my clients and prospects. And last but not least, as Bill mentioned, I am recently a published author. The name of my book is Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz. And the book focuses on the service office space industry, really from the user perspective. What I learned as a service office space provider for 6 years is that not a lot of people know about the industry, small business owners in particular. Even though the industry has been around for decades, there's really a knowledge gap about the industry and how it can benefit small business owners as they grow their business. And the limited books that I have seen in the marketplace about it really speak to it from the operator's perspective, how they can enhance their business, how they can grow their business as a service office space provider, but not from the perspective of the user in terms of how they can navigate the marketplace and filter out all the options. So that's what the book is about. And that, again, is a little bit about me and what has led me to this discussion today. So what we'll cover, I try to be very succinct and to the point as possible. We have really three main topics we're going to cover. All of this, of course, leading to the discussion, the primary discussion of becoming a next level notary and how service office space can be part of the portfolio to help you achieve that goal. So we're going to talk specifically about what service office space is. We're going to talk about why you ought to consider service office space as part of your portfolio to take your business to the next level, and how specifically you can use service office space. All right, but I want to hear from you right now. You know, Bill titled this webinar, The Next Level Notary, and I know that means different things to different people. So can you just take just a few seconds just to put in the chat box, what does Next Level Notary mean to you? And you can just type a couple of words. It doesn't have to be very long. Just let me know what comes to mind when we think of Next Level Notary.
Awesome. Can you see these, LaTanya?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Someone said I look good, fancy. Is that me or Bill? Before that goes to my head, who are you referring to, Emma? Someone asked me what part of Maryland. I'm actually in Upper Marlboro. That's a suburb of Washington, D.C., but I did go to school in Baltimore, so I'm familiar with Security Boulevard. A step above, another service to offer. Okay. Okay, so diversification of services, niche services. Okay. All right. That's a good list. I think everybody's pretty much saying the same thing. So that's good to know. And I think service office space can definitely help you get there. So thank you guys for engaging me in that regard. So if I can get my computer to work here. Okay, do I need to do something different here, Bill? Hold up. All right, so now this is a quote that when I first heard it years ago, really resonated with me. And the reason why I have it here is because for those of you who provided what Next Level Notary means to you, what that really is the what. When we talk about Next Level Notary, being downtown, differentiation of services, having a niche, that's really what the what is for you. But what is equally important to knowing what you want to do is why you want to do it, and then how you want to do it. And this quote, I don't know who it's attributed to. Some people say it's Jim Rohn. Some people say it's someone else. I don't know. For today, let's just pretend I came up with it, okay? But when the why is clear, the how is easy. And once again, when I first heard this quote, it really hit the core of my entrepreneurial soul. So as we continue our discussion today, keep in mind the what that you've already identified. Think about why that's important to you, and consider service office space as part of your toolkit of how you can get to that next level notary. All right, so just keep that in mind. We might come back to it a little bit later.
That's awesome, phenomenal.
All right, so those are just some of my thoughts of what a next level notary could be, and I obviously did this before you all type your thoughts, but obviously differentiation, separating yourself from the rest of the notaries out there, diversification of services, and also perceived value. And I talk about this a lot in my book. Perception, be it good, bad, or indifferent, is reality in the mind of many people. And service office space can help increase your perceived value and your increased legitimacy as a business owner. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. So what specifically is service office space? I realize some of you may already be familiar with it, but I also realize that some of you may not be. But in a nutshell, service office space is an alternative to traditional office space. And when I say traditional office space, I mean when you hire someone like me, a commercial real estate agent, to help you go out and look to secure a lease of your own, whether it's an office space, whether it's a retail space, whether it's some type of a multi-family establishment. And that can be very pricey. Minimally, if you were to get a 1,000 square foot commercial office space at $19 a square foot, that can cost you over $1,000 a month. And for many people, that's a significant outlay of dollars, particularly if you're a solopreneur, or if you're a startup, or if you're still navigating through how you want to differentiate yourself in your industry. So once again, service office space is an alternative to that. So instead of you having to take on a full lease for 3 to 5 years or whatever is required, you can actually have a furnished office space for as little as an hour, for a month, for a week, whatever really suits your needs. In addition to having the furniture, you'll be in a legitimate corporate environment, usually an office building, and you'll also have ancillary services already included in the pricing, which as a separate lease you would have to pay for separately. But with service office space, your internet is included, your janitorial services are included, and there are a number of other amenities that are all included to help you focus on growing your business instead of how do I manage all of these individual costs of managing the space by myself. So in a nutshell, that's what service office space is, an alternative to traditional office space. You get the same benefits of it, but at a fraction of the cost and with more control over how much or how little you use. So why use service office space? Well, the book talks about a number of benefits and advantages to using service office space, but I'm going to talk specifically about what I have coined the 3 C's of service office space. And the 3 C's are credibility, convenience, and control. I've already touched on credibility. And when I say credibility, I mean, once again, your perceived legitimacy as a business owner. Let me give you an example. So some of you, maybe not, but some business owners, as an alternative to paying the rent that they would have to pay in a traditional office space, they may meet clients at their home. They may meet clients in a Panera Bread or another type of coffee shop, or they may meet at a library. And sometimes that can work for a little bit of time, but ultimately that creates a lesser image of you as a professional in the minds of many of your customers and prospects. And they may tell you, they may not. And one of the questions I posed in my book is, flip the script a little bit and think about if you were a consumer or a prospect for a business owner, and instead of meeting in a professional office space, they want to meet you at a coffee shop. What would you think of that person if you're really honest about it? Would you really think that they're a legitimate business owner, or would you think as highly of them as someone who has their own office space? The answer is probably no. And service office space can help to overcome that challenge by giving you the credibility of working in a professional environment, once again, with a private office or a private conference room, and that will put your customer at ease and once again give you more credibility in the minds of your customer or your prospect. And I'll give you an example of how this can speak specifically to notaries. I was looking at one of the conversations in the Facebook group recently, and some of you were talking about business cards. I don't know what you use as your address on your business cards, or even if you use an address, but if my assumption is correct, you may be using your home address as your business address for your notary business, or you may be using a P.O. box. Well, again, that can not only affect your credibility or your perceived credibility to your prospects and your customers, but there actually are some legal challenges that come along with conducting business out of your home or using the P.O. box. And I talk about that a little bit more in the book. But if you use service office space, you can actually have a quote unquote real address for your company business. My company, for example, and many other service office space providers have what they call a mailbox address, or I personally call it a corporate ID package, where all you have to do is pay to use our address. You don't have to use any other services if you don't want them. But by using a service office space in this manner, minimally, it will give you a legitimate office space, an office address to use as your address on your marketing materials, including your business cards and your website and whatever else you may be using your address for. In addition to that increased credibility, if you ever get a walk-in client, as my clients often do, and someone decides, you know what, I have this notary's business card, I actually need a notary right now, I'm in the neighborhood, let me just stop by and see if they're available. If they do that, they're actually going to walk into a real office environment, not a strip mall where there's a mailbox, etc., or a UPS store that sometimes front as being legitimate corporate addresses. So that's a little bit about how the three C's of service office space in particular speak to the credibility of your notary business.
Can I chime in here?
Sure, sure.
Well, I just want to share too, guys, specifically about the address. That corporate ID package and most service office space actually have like a separate package for that too. So not ready for the full on office space, you can usually get the corporate ID package as well. But that actually can benefit you on the search engine optimization level as well.
Absolutely.
Because Google loves a corporate address for your business. So if you're able to use that and have a service office space that can provide that, that is going to boost your Google rankings incredibly.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right. The next C is convenience. And this actually is a twofold element here. Convenience, in my view at least, speaks to how accessible and convenient the space is for your customers. The clients that I have, or some of the clients that I have, when they think about a location and it being a convenient location, they often think about how convenient it is to their home, how long of a commute they're going to have to get to the space. And unless all of your customers are in your backyard or in your neighborhood, that really doesn't help your customers. I'm always a proponent of being in a location that is easy for your clients and your prospects to get to, or in a location that is convenient for your target market. Obviously, you don't want to have a 3-hour commute if you don't need to, but convenience speaks to being in a location that is easy for, once again, your clients and your prospects to get to. And when you use service office space, because there are so many options in the marketplace, it will be very easy, I believe, for you to find a location that is not only convenient in terms of commuting for you, but more importantly, is convenient for your prospects, your target market, and your clients to easily get to you to use your services. The other element of convenience that I talk about in the book is actually being a user of the service office space. It should be easy for you to access the services. One of the things that you want to look out for, if this is important to you, is whether or not you can access the space after hours. If you are not a full-time user of the space, there's a likelihood that you won't be able to use the space after hours or weekends. But look around, because some actually do that. I am a provider who does allow non-full-time clients to access the space after hours. And if that's something that's important to you, that is an element of convenience that you're going to have to consider and look out for as you begin to look in the marketplace for providers to support your business. The last C that I talk about is control. And this goes back to a point that I mentioned in the beginning. You, as the user, ought to have complete control over how much or how little of the services that you use when you're using a service office-based provider. Unlike when you go in the marketplace and get a full-fledged lease, like my real estate clients do, you're stuck, for lack of a better word, you're stuck with that exact space for however long your lease is. And if you want to downgrade to a smaller space within that lease term or upgrade, it's going to cost you something. Well, that's not so much the case with service office space. You have, or ought to have, absolute control over how much or how little of the services that you use. And one of the things that I like about service office space, and Bill just alluded to this, is that you can scale the services as your business grows. So if you're at this point only in need of the corporate address, you can start with that. And when you're ready to add some meeting room time to that, you can scale up to that level. And when you're ready to use the space full time, you can then grow up to that level. So it's a very incremental, very flexible option for office space, and you ought to have total control at all times. All right. So some other benefits that I talk about in the book are on-site administrative support services. As notaries, this may be helpful for you. I find it helpful for some of my clients. I mentioned to Bill in a prior conversation that one of my clients is a title company that has been with me really since the beginning of opening my business. And what they do is they rent out one of my meeting rooms for a couple of hours to conduct the signings and the closings of their clients who are closest to my location. So in addition to providing staff support for them when they need it, they also have access to my copier if they need to make copies of the IDs, etc. They also have a scanner and a fax machine. Another advantage is that you can network with like-minded professionals. Sometimes just being around other professionals is motivation enough to work more productively. And in addition, you may often find that the service office space that you work in has accountants, it has other types of financial professionals, it has attorneys, and these are people who you can potentially establish partnerships with, once again, to take your notary business to the next level. And I can go on and on about the different benefits of service office space. I do talk about it in my book, but again, it's really an all-around win for notaries and other small business owners to use service office space. So what I want to do right now is just take a pause and see if anybody at this point has any questions about what we've talked about so far. What is service office space and what the benefits of service office space are? Any questions so far? Okay, and Bill, hopefully I'm doing this right. How do I open this? One of the things I'm not is a techie, as you have painfully seen. So how do I, oh, here we go.
See the chat window?
Okay, so let's see what you did.
I think Patrick just talked about phone on his cards only.
Okay, email and phone on cards. Is that a question?
I think he was just saying that that's what he puts on his cards as opposed to an address, physical address.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay, yeah, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because as far as phone numbers are concerned, this is another benefit that many service office spaces provide. They can provide you with your own telephone with a live receptionist answering service. And I actually use this for my business. So what some people do is they might have a cell phone as their business telephone number, and when someone calls, they answer the phone. The business owner answers the phone, and if they happen to not be available, that's a missed call. Well, if you take advantage of live receptionist services, how that can work instead is that you can have your own telephone number. It can be a local telephone number, it can be a toll-free telephone number, or you can port your existing telephone number over into the system. When someone calls that number, a live receptionist will answer in your company name, saying, hello, welcome to ABC Notary, how can I help you? And then that notary can then transfer that call warmly to your cell phone or even to your email. So that's actually another way to increase your credibility by using SOS. So I'm glad that you mentioned the phone number, because that's another benefit.
That is some
I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I was just saying, that's some serious next level stuff right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have it too, and it actually could be a standalone service. I actually have one location in Laurel, Maryland, which is located outside of DC, in between Baltimore and Washington. It's a very centralized location, so if you're in the Baltimore area, that might work out for you. How soon in a new business should a person look at getting into a service office space? I would say as soon as possible, really. If nothing else, use the service office space as your business address. As you're setting up your business and registering it with your different governing bodies, you can use that corporate address, that SOS provider's corporate address, as your business address. And that will actually help you, as Bill said, from the outset of your business with SEO, search engine optimization. And if you are interested in doing business with governmental entities, which I believe some governmental entities are interested in having notaries as part of their bidding list, there are some governmental entities that will not do business with you unless you have a legitimate corporate address. They don't want you to have a PO box, and some may not even want you to have a home address. So my answer to that will be, at the beginning of your business, if nothing else, use the corporate ID, and you can use the space on an a la carte basis if you need to have a one-on-one meeting. Okay, yeah, and I see someone uses it for their business address only, so very good. Okay, so let's move on, and hopefully I won't mess this up again. Bear with me, Bill. All right, so how do you use service office space? Again, there are a lot of options in the marketplace. It's a lot to choose from. But what I try to do in my book is help you to narrow that down to something that's a little bit more manageable, so that you can make a choice that's best for you. So I discussed the 5 simple steps by using a Brisk acronym. And you can see on your screen what Brisk stands for. So I'll just go through each step very quickly. First of all, you want to browse the marketplace. And the easiest way to do that is just by doing an internet search. I'm sure if you right now were to pull up a web browser and type in virtual offices in your city or co-working in your city, you will come up with a portfolio of options that you may not even know are near your city. And there are a number of terms. I didn't say this earlier, but I call it service office space. But there are a number of terms that are used to refer to service office space. Co-working is a hot term right now. Executive suites, virtual offices, hot desking. Some people call it business hoteling. You might have heard of incubators. A lot of different terms to talk about the same thing. So when you are doing this first step of your search, use some of those terms along with your city and see what you come up with. The next step is research. So when you complete the first step, you're going to come up with, several pages worth of options. I would recommend narrowing that down to 3 to 5 options, and then dig a little deeper for each of those locations when you're conducting your research. See if the provider that you came up with has a website. If they don't, to me, that's a red flag as a service office provider. But look at their website, navigate their website. You might find some pricing information on their website. You might see pictures of their spaces on the website. What you can also do during the research stage is look up the actual address of the location to see what the geography is in the area. Is it an accessible space to get to? Is it near major roadways so that your prospects can find you very easily? Is it near other amenities such as shopping and dining? All of this can go into whether or not it's a good fit for you and where you want to take your business to. Once you complete your research, I would recommend that you interview the actual location. You can do this by calling them and scheduling a tour so that you can see the space firsthand. I am a big fan of aesthetics. And even though something may look good on paper or they may have a nice website, I like to physically go there and interact with the people, see if the staff are really professional, and see if we just vibe, for lack of a better word. So I would encourage you to interview whatever your top 3 to 5 providers are and actually schedule a tour so that you can see the space firsthand. The fourth step is to actually select a space. And I'm going to show you a little bit later a grid that will help you to navigate how you choose which is the best choice for you. But make a choice, because it's not until you actually select a provider and actually begin using the services that you can complete the final step, which is killing the rent, which is part of the title of my book. But as you're selecting, before you select your provider, make sure that you understand the fine print. Make sure you fully understand what services you have and what services you don't have, because you don't want to find yourself midway through the use of your services only to realize that you had a disconnect in what you thought you were getting. So make sure you understand all of the fine print, ask all of the questions that you feel comfortable asking. Don't proceed until you feel satisfied with the answers, because once again, you are effectively partnering with this service office provider to help you take your business to the next level. And if there's any part of the agreement or any part of the space that you don't feel comfortable with, then you need to consider another alternative. And then the last step of the Brisk steps, of course, is kill the rent. Once you start using the services, you'll start saving money. And those monies that you save, you can reinvest into other areas of your business to take it to the next level. Okay, any questions here? Okay, let's see what we have. Sounds good. I like that. Okay, so it doesn't look like there are any questions, so we'll just continue. Let me close this out. All right, so what are the next steps for you? The first next step I would recommend is go to my author site, which is ldhoward.com, and download the 3 C's chart for absolutely free. The only thing you would have to do is put in your email, but once again, you'll get this chart for absolutely free. It's also in the book. And what this does, once again, is go over the 3 C's that we just talked about, provide some examples underneath each to help you decide Okay, to what extent are the providers that I'm considering meeting each of these 3 criteria? And it also provides a space for 3 providers so that you can take notes and keep track as you go along and ultimately figure out which provider is the best for you to use as you take your business to the next level. The next step for you is to complete the 5 simple steps that we just talked about. Again, browse the marketplace. You can do this once again by doing a very simple internet search. Research your top 3 to 5 choices a little bit more thoroughly. Conduct an interview with those 3 to 5 choices. Select one of those providers as the best for you and ultimately kill the rent. And then finally, enjoy the next level. All right.
Latanya, are you able to open up that slide and make it bigger for the people watching on the screen? It's a little bit small. We can't read it.
Okay. It's small even on the full screen,
Okay.
but
So
when you download it,
it.
it's much more,
Yeah.
profound. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank
Okay,
you.
but this just has the 3 C's and then the providers across the top.
Wonderful.
Okay. So any questions before we adjourn? And we're not really going to adjourn just yet, but any questions before we, okay, let's see. Okay, thank you. Can you open up the slide? Okay. What's the title of my book? It's called Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz. And I'll show you the cover of it a little bit later. So let me just go on to the next point here. I do want to do one more thing before we wrap up. Now, one of the things I didn't mention in the beginning is that I'm also a college professor. And as a college professor, I am obliged to give you a pop quiz, okay? So, and of course my thing isn't working here. That's annoying. Okay, so what I want to do is, we talked about the 3 C's of service office space, and we talked about the 5 steps to get started. So what I would like to do, just to have a little fun, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds to name what those 3 C's were again. Okay. And the person who answers correctly first within 15 seconds will get a free copy of my paperback book, which should be out within the next few weeks. So once again, what I'm going to have you to do, the pop quiz is name correctly the 3 C's within 15 seconds. Whoever does it first wins a free copy of my book, and go.
We already have a winner.
Oh, we didn't even start. Okay, we have a winner.
Yeah, we got Valerie. She, according to the technology on the Zoom chat, Valerie was the first person to put in credibility, convenience.
Okay, well, wow. Well, good. Congratulations, Valerie. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll have Bill reach out to you to provide your mailing address, and I'll send you a free copy of my paperback when it comes out. Congratulations, Valerie. That's fast. That was supposed to be a little bit more challenging, but I have to up my game a little bit.
Kirtland,
okay.
Very, very close second place.
Okay. All right, so just to summarize, service office space can help you cut costs. It can help you attract more clients and improve your bottom line. That's actually the subtitle of my book. And ultimately, it will help you to take your business to the next level. Once again, the 3 C's of service office space are credibility, convenience, and control. And once again, the 5 steps here are browse, research, interview, select, and kill the rent. Okay, any questions? We have, I guess, about 30 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, well, yeah, right in that ballpark. And before we, well, and again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump in. But there's a few other points I'd like to bring up.
Okay, I'm completely confused here. Okay, wait a minute.
We can see you.
I'm completely messed up here. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You're all good. So I would like to talk a little bit even more about how this might apply. Oh, actually, let's go to Jason's question really quick. So my question is, if we use SOS, are we only able to charge for the stamp only? That's a great question. And Jason, that will kind of depend on the state. Now, there are some states that actually allow a notary to charge a convenience charge. And these are popping up in a lot of places. And then you know who the big pusher of that is the UPS stores. You know, these UPS stores are franchise models, and they charge convenience fees in a lot of their states for people who just walk in. So they're charging for the signature, the stamps, and the convenience charge on those. So you have to check with your particular state to see if that makes sense. Now, to that point, almost exactly, is about how you guys might be able to use service office space to bring more value. And Latanya went over a lot of great ways that's going to happen. I just want you guys to know that this is actually real. And not only does Latanya's client, the title company, use service office space where she's at, but I actually have one of my biggest clients actually, we've been talking for months about how we can bring more value to their customers. So to give you an example of how this works, I've got one title company for a builder, and people have to drive from miles and miles away. I mean, sometimes it's an hour and a half drive to this one title company to sign their closing documents, and the customers are getting frustrated. They drive in and the signing takes 30 minutes, and then they have to drive an hour and a half back, so it's 3 hours, 3.5 hours of their time. So we're working with the title company to find these service office spaces where we can set up signings across the valley. I don't know if you're familiar with Maricopa County or not, but it's huge. But a lot of these places or co-working spaces or executive suites, they have multiple locations. So you pay a certain monthly membership and you can use the other locations. So we'll be able to set up a signing in Mesa, and then the next day we can do a signing in Buckeye in a professional environment where there's copy machines, there's a receptionist to greet people, they can get coffee, tea, water, whatever it is that they want. Mm-hmm. But then also the printing services. This is really what I wanted to bring to your attention as well. A lot of service office space include the printing. And you know that printing is one of our biggest expenses. Mm-hmm. Some places definitely charge for it. They'll charge anywhere from 4 cents a page to 10 cents a page, sometimes more. But there are some service office spaces that include unlimited printing. So if you had to print your loan packages, you could do that at your office. So there's lots of ways to bring value to this. And I just wanted to highlight how real that is. Like, this is literally a negotiation that we're having with one of my biggest clients. And there's going to be a way to obviously, make money off of it. It's not like it would be a loss of revenue for my company. I would build a title company for it, and it would all just be an extra added value to increase my company's revenue that way. That's on the pretty grand scale, and there's all these ways in between that you can do that. Medical offices, everything that we do as a mobile is going to be able to kind of transfer or transcend into the service office space model too. You guys are on the cutting edge of this as well. I guarantee you there's not very many notaries out there thinking about this next level stuff. And I talk about it in the emails that I sent out. It's harder and harder to find a stable, reliable notary that is always there. Banks aren't doing this anymore. FedEx has already cut the notary portion out of it. So you're literally going to be able to go to the UPS store, and that's it. And that's exactly what they want. They want that notary business. It's a huge line item on their profit margins. So we have an opportunity here to really kind of catch on those coattails and really build a brand and a name for ourselves and an awesome revenue stream.
Okay.
So sounds like we've got some questions here.
Yep. And I see that Maria has asked a question. Can you tell us the difference between the cost of an actual office location versus renting the office space? Ultimately, that's going to depend on the size. First of all, I'm assuming you're asking the difference between getting a traditional office space versus SOS. So that's how I'm interpreting your question. If that's not what you mean, let me know. But as far as traditional office space, there are a number of variables that will dictate how much you pay in rent per month, the size of the office space, and what the rate is per month primarily, but there are other elements that could affect that as well. But an example that I use in the book is a 1,000 square foot office space, which is typically going to be enough for a couple of offices, a reception area, and maybe a conference room at a rate of $19 per square foot. That's going to yield, I think, about $1,500 a month to have access to that space. In addition to just the rent, you're going to have to pay a separate cost for your utilities, potentially, depending upon the type of lease that you have. You're going to have to pay a separate amount for your telecommunications setups, whether it's telephones or internet. So it's a very significant cost, and there are many different costs that you'll have to manage besides the rent. On the other hand, if you use SOS, you can pay as little as $50 an hour for an office space, whether it be a private office or a meeting room, even less than that potentially, and you'll have access to not only the furnished office space, but utilities are included. Your internet and telecom typically is included. As Bill mentioned, you'll probably have access to a kitchen area for complimentary beverages and snacks for you and your guests, and you'll also have on-site support from staff to help you with whatever you need. So it's a significant difference. That's the only way I can phrase it. And in the book, I actually have a chart that compares traditional office space versus SOS. And it's on an annual basis, roughly $40,000 a year that you can potentially save by using SOS versus a traditional office space. And those are dollars that you can reinvest into your notary business.
Yeah, that's huge. And I just want to share a little bit of the research that I've done here in the Phoenix market, guys. Some of these co-working spaces, they're so cool. You know, they're very modern and they've got the coolest people and the vibe is amazing. So what's hugely valuable is that comes with a built-in network, just like LaTanya was saying. These are built-in customers for you that are probably going to start referring. They love working with each other. There's an awesome energy and vibe, but the price point is so cheap. Everything is set up just like LaTanya said, and sometimes you can do like daily drop-ins that will pay anywhere from $25 to $65, and they just give you a little desk space so you can pop in there and just pick up on the energy and vibe. You can do that whenever you want. There's no, there's no commitment. There's no month-long lease. There's no anything like that. So you can pop in and just do it real quick like that, get your feet wet a little bit, and you grow and expand. It's so versatile. You can do the little pop-in visits where they give you like a stool in a little private space. Then you can escalate to a desk or a private office. There's so many options in there.
Yeah. And something that you can think of if you haven't already, another way you can use service office space that's taking your business to the next level is, my understanding is that most of you focus on doing signings and perhaps mobile notarizations. But let's say, for example, at some point you want to do a workshop. Perhaps you want to train other notaries, or perhaps you want to have, partner with an attorney or with an accountant to talk about a common topic and do so in the form of a workshop. Well, you can go to a service office space and rent one of their spaces. Again, it can be very inexpensive, but that's a way that you can diversify your services by providing training and workshops and adding value to your clients. And you can do so in a professional environment as opposed to a library or a hotel, which may be more expensive. And once again, you have all of the comforts of the beverages, of the on-site support staff. So that not only will help you to facilitate your workshops better, but also make your attendees feel a lot more comfortable and impressed as well.
Yeah, that's huge. We'll talk about bringing value to your customers, guys, and you're going to see this, exactly what LaTanya just said. You are going to see a lot coming out in the email campaign that I'm doing across the country, providing value to escrow officers. But if you can provide, they all go through trainings. They have to give trainings, they don't have to, but they give trainings to the real estate partners. And imagine if you were a strategic partner in that and you had the corporate office space to give them to do their trainings for the real estate agent. That just puts you right in the integral circle of the decision makers and bringing value to everybody involved there. That's huge.
All right, awesome. So I see M. Spencer said that they never heard of SOS, but they must have completed the first step of the 5 steps and they see it's prevalent in their area. So good. So that's excellent to know. And Valerie says she's looking to do some workshops. So now's a good time to start searching the marketplace.
Yeah, that's
for
huge.
SOS. Okay. Are there any other questions? This is great.
Yeah, this was fabulous. Any other questions or comments? Questions while we have LaTanya on the line, guys?
What I'll do is I'll go ahead and put up the next slide as well. All right, so someone was asking about the title of my book. The full title is Kill the Rent, Grow Your Biz, 5 Simple Steps to Cut Costs, Attract More Clients, and Improve Your Bottom Line. So it is available on Amazon. Maria is saying, where's the best place to look for SOS? What I would recommend is to complete the 5 simple steps, starting with browsing the internet. And once again, you can just search co-working or executive suites or virtual offices. for whatever your city is and see what comes up. So I would definitely recommend looking at the 5 simple steps.
Valerie had a question for you too. It's tacked on to the end of her paragraph. It says, how did you get into being an SOS provider?
Oh, okay, you're right. Well, that's an interesting question. In my former life, and it's still part of my current life, I worked in public finance. I was a financial administrator in various levels of government, including Capitol Hill at one time. But then, I had a point in my life where I just wanted to do something different. It was important to me to feed my soul, not just make money. So I kind of had an early midlife crisis, if you will. So I actually learned about the industry around that time. I was actually a user of service office space, and I hadn't heard of it. I just happened to be on the internet, and I came across it. I was like, wow, that's a neat concept. So I actually was a user of service office space. But as I began doing my soul searching and figuring out what it is I really enjoyed doing, I decided that, that service office space that I used for my business several years ago, I think I want to do that because that's a really neat idea. And I've always enjoyed working with other businesses. I've had other businesses in the past, but I really enjoy working with other businesses and helping them to grow theirs. So the short answer is I actually was a user. I was inspired by the benefits as a user that it motivated me to start my own business in 2012.
Hmm.
Yep.
That's fantastic. I would imagine that's got to be very rewarding. It's just being a base camp for these businesses that are out there.
It is. It
Dream.
really is.
Yeah.
And no two clients are alike. So they keep me on my toes for sure.
I bet.
Okay. But once again, here's the cover of my book. There's the title of it. Right now, the ebook is available on Amazon for $2.99. Once again, the paperback will be out in a few weeks. And if you want to stay connected with me, there's some information on the right side of the slide. You see my corporate website, which is howardcorporate.com. Once again, I have one location in Laurel, but you're more than welcome to look at my website, get a sense of what others' websites might look like and how my company is structured. My author site is ldhoward.com. Once again, that's where you can go to download that free 3Cs chart. You can take that with you as you're interviewing different SOS providers to help keep track. I'm also on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm not very social, unfortunately, but I do have a Facebook page and a LinkedIn page, and I'm also on Goodreads for those of you who are familiar with Goodreads. Am I looking into expanding? Maybe at some point. I'm not looking to have locations throughout the world like the predominant leader in the industry. I won't say their name because it's not their webinar, but you probably know who it is. But I do ultimately want to have a few more locations in the US and ultimately internationally. Actually, the name of my center is Howard Corporate Center, and center is spelled the British way, CENTRE. And I did that so that I'm constantly reminded of my international expansion aspirations. So,
Oh, that's great.
okay. I have worked in one before as a teen with a realtor. Oh, wow, you had a sauna and a hot tub. That sounds pretty nice. Okay. So Emma had a positive experience with SOS. So good. Yeah, there are many different spaces, many different aesthetics for different personality types, for different work styles. So definitely look around. There's a lot to choose from.
Awesome. Any more questions that we have for LaTanya? All right, guys.
Okay.
LaTanya, any parting thoughts for us?
Well, I think it's great. Like you said, Bill, I think service office space can definitely help to take your business to the next level, and it will help you to save a lot of money, and you can shop around. So, don't feel that when you're with one service provider that you have to stay married to them. I mean, look around. You can have multiple spaces at one time. I actually have some clients who use the corporate identity package or the mailbox address for multiple locations, and that gives them the appearance of having their business in multiple locations. So you can, if you're in Austin, for example, and you want to have a presence in Arizona, you can do that. Just get the corporate address. So it's a lot of different ways that you can use the service and really leverage it to take your business to the next level. And in my book, I actually have some case studies which talk about different ways that different entrepreneurs in different industries have leveraged the SOS to take their business to the next level and cut costs that they can reinvest into their business in other ways. So definitely give it a shot. You don't have to commit. And, you know, I would say just enjoy being in the next level. And thanks again for the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, we really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to be with us as well. This was extremely valuable, awesome information. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing. Valerie, we did address Maria's question, by the way, the Brisk system. Get on the internet and research using the Brisk system to find out what service office spaces are available in your particular area. We're going to go ahead. Oh, do we have one more? Oh, just saying thank you. Awesome. Thank you again, you guys. Thanks for spending your Saturday morning with yourselves, with us, building your business.
All right. Take care, everybody. Happy Saturday to you.